And welcome to another edition of the Bullheaded Podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and Peebush. How you guys doing?
Doing well, man. Feels like I won the Super Bowl. Bears getting that first overall pick. I know we'll be diving into it a little later, man, but I am amped even with the Bears out of the playoffs. Love to watch some NFL playoffs. I feel like there's some really exciting matchups with a lot of young quarterbacks. So I'm excited to see how some of these turn out.
Yeah, it's like a Bears thing miracle, man. They get the number
Mhm.
one pick, and the Green Bay Packers loses in the playoff pretty much game, man.
Perfect.
Aaron Rodgers, man. I told you guys, he's washed. He is washed, man. He is terrible.
He is
Detroit
terrible.
Lions, man. It's a bad defense. Aaron Rodgers can only get one touchdown. Defense is
Field
fine,
goals,
man.
that's all
Defense is
they were
fine,
doing.
man. Running game was
Mason
fine,
Crosby.
man. Running game was fine. Aaron Rodgers throwing picks? Picks?
Hey, Aaron Jones fumble. That was a big one.
That was the shifter right there.
Yep.
If they scored there, they would have been up, I think, 17-3, and I think Detroit would have gave up.
Nah, I
Aaron
don't
Jones
even believe
fumbling right there, I think. And it's like you say, and there was a couple of drives after that, they still kept getting threes. Like you can't,
They
you
keep
gotta
kicking
get
field
touchdowns.
goals,
You can't
man. They
get-
keep kicking
can't
field
get
goals.
threes. You gotta especially when you're dealing with an offense who, even though Jared Goff is bad on the road, like they got playmakers on that side of
Jamal Williams
Detroit. Whew.
Man.
dishing
Jamal
out a
Williams,
little
man.
revenge game right there against his old
they
team,
do.
man.
Yeah, breaking Barry Sanders' record of most rushing
The fact that
touchdowns.
he
man,
holds that
that's
over
incredible.
Barry. Oh my God.
Unstoppable in the
question.
red zone, man. Unstoppable.
Do you think he has a regret? Do you think this is not a fantasy outlook, but I thought about this when they said he broke that touchdown record. I was like, do you think he has a James Conner regression to the mean next year?
Oh yeah, he's the classic James Conner running back, man. Goal line dude, man. No pass catching, man. Bruiser.
I
Typical
wonder.
James Conner, man.
Hey, James
Yeah.
Conner, when he was healthy, though, he was one of the best backs in fantasy there the last couple of weeks. Let's be honest, Zoo.
Well, last couple of weeks, he was complete garbo for the first couple of weeks, man.
That's
Unstartable.
fair.
Unstartable.
Yeah.
Unstartable. He's a
That's
nice,
interesting.
nice little RB2, man. It's a nice little RB2 on the side, man.
Yeah.
Depends what they do with
It's gonna be
Swift, I think, is the big question.
For sure. It's going to be Swift's going to have to stay healthy, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting dynamic next year if, considering all things equal, that Swift is healthy. But talk about that way, way, way down the pike when we do fantasy football. But and before I forget, we're not going to really do a synopsis of the national championship game because you guys watched it last night. That was awful, 65-7. I mean, TCU. I will say this: it looked like they were just happy to be there,
Yeah.
and that the score indicated that that's what TCU, their plight was in that game. So, congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs. Gave you a lot of love on the page today, but I can't really give you much
Back-to-back.
detail of what happened in that. Yeah, back to back for them, and it's looking like if you follow recruiting, they're probably going to be back in the Final Four next year. So, with that being said, the NFL playoffs are here. Number one seeds, Eagles, Chiefs. Was looking kind of dicey for the Eagles at one point, with Jalen's health, but they were able to somehow, I guess, beat the Davis Webb.
Man,
I think that was who it was. Wasn't it Davis Webb for the
yeah,
Giants?
third string.
Yeah. The Davis Webb led Giants. So we're gonna kind of get into all the games, the matchups, first week of the playoffs. Get some of the guys' thoughts and people. I'm gonna start with you.
I'm gonna start with the battle of flow, man, in the AFC. Chargers, Jags, man.
That
Got Justin Herbert. Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think it's good. I think it is a straight pick 'em. I think it's the only.
It
game
is
in
even. The
Vegas.
line is even.
The line is even, yeah, and I think that's a fair Vegas assessment. The Jaguars. I think it was the last handful of games. Trevor Lawrence has only thrown like 2 picks, maybe thrown 15 touchdowns, and they've been 7. I think it's over 9 games. They're 7-2, man. They finished the season strong after a really slow start. I think we had discussions in the midway part of the season of Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and I'll give credit to Zoo. He's on the T-Law train, and he's clearly proven that, hey, man, he's here. And Christian Kirk and him have clearly a good connection. Evan Ingram, I think they'd like to get him a bit more consistently involved, but he's a solid tight end option for them. But I think the key for the Jaguars in this game is going to be Travis Etienne. I mean, the Chargers' rush defense is not good. Even though they had those 2 great edge rushers, and Joey Bosa, I believe, is back and healthy from his groin injury. So you got Khalil Mack and Bosa on the opposite sides, but that interior just seems to struggle against pretty much every single team. You saw Latavius Murray had a pretty decent game last week in Week 18. But, man, this Chargers offense is really hard to write them off, especially when they got Keenan Allen, who has just been an absolute god in especially PPR formats since he's come back healthy from his injuries this year. You got Mike Williams, coming back, and then you got PFP, man, pound for pound himself, Austin Eckler. I mean, I think the thing with this team and the Jaguars, I saw the stat that I think they've doubled their sacks per game in the last 5 games. So, the other Josh Allen is what a lot of people like to call him. He's a hell of an edge or a hell of a rusher. They're getting to the quarterback, and we've all agreed that the Chargers, that's also been an issue with them, is their pass protection, giving Herbert enough time to get Mike Williams on the deep ball threat, Keenan Allen in the crossing routes. So I think this game's going to really come down to how quickly Herbert can get the ball out, and especially those checkdowns to Austin Eckler, man. That's going to be the deciding factor of this game. How much can the Jags stop Eckler, and how much can Eckler get around this Jags, linebacking core, safeties dropping in on the backfield. So I think it is a true pick'em game, and I know that the Chargers are on the road. It's also a cross-country trip, probably the farthest trip by any team this year, going from LA all the way out to Jacksonville, Florida. It's a long trip to deal with, but they do have some time. And I think the Chargers will pull it off in this game, man. I think they will. I think the Jaguars need to, even with Doug Peterson's experience, I think they need to kind of get whooped in the playoffs once. Even though the Chargers are not proven, I think they need to kind of see it and see how deadly the playoffs are compared to a regular season in a very, very poor division this year. So in the AFC South. So I'm going with the Chargers.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Chargers, man. I love my boy T-Law, man, but he needs an ass whooping, man. Because that game to push them in to lock in the playoff spot, man. T-Law had a bad game.
He did.
Like obviously they won the game, man, but I saw this dime, man. Red zone, man, on the left side, man, missed the guy wide open touchdown. Just overthrew him. You can't do that in the playoffs, man.
Right.
Like you're playing against a Chargers team that's finally getting healthy with all the offensive weapons right now, and they're locked and loaded. Like this Chargers team in the regular season, it was not the Chargers because the entire roster was injured, especially on offense. Like Justin Herbert would throw into Joshua Palmer as wide receiver 1 for a couple weeks, man. I would know because I had that dude on my bench, man. I'm like, okay, let's put that guy in. And that's what I know. They were real desperate because in real life, that was their wide receiver 1. In real life, he's a nice receiver, but wide receiver 1, come on. Like they ain't a number 1 option right now. Mike Williams, man, what he could do as a healthy receiver, man, as a deep threat, man, in the red zone, man, it's great. Keenan Allen obviously bouncing back from the hamstring injury, finally playing football, man, being that possession receiver that every time finally your security blanket, Keenan Allen that Justin Herbert loves, man. And finally we get to see Herbert in the playoffs. Finally, I feel like it's been years waiting for this guy to be in the playoffs. Like he's been in the NFL for a couple of years, just hasn't made the playoffs right now. And you got T-Law in his second year, man. I think the line is even right now, but I'm going with you. I'm going Chargers money line, man, because I feel like it's their time to show themselves, to prove themselves. Because I remember this is a team. Like when you see them play the regular season against the Kansas City Chiefs, man, they're toe-to-toe, man. Like they're toe-to-toe, talent-wise, man.
Up and down.
They're going blow for blow in the regular season, man. I have Kansas City as the pinnacle, the benchmark of what you want to be, and I see them against that benchmark. Trevor Lawrence, man. Cute season, man. 9-8, squeeze into the playoff, man. Good job. Next year will be your year where you can make that full step of being a playoff contender. But this year, man, you're just lucky to make it in, man. Enjoy the playoff experience. You're gonna learn from it, man. But man, Trevor Lawrence, man, you can't have those donut plays, man, where you're missing dudes in the red zone. Like that just can't happen, man. You're gonna obviously rely on Etienne, who finished with a monster season, like 1,100 yards as his first season. Last year, I don't count it with the injury, so as pretty much his retro rookie year, man, unbelievable season for Travis Etienne for bouncing back from a catastrophic injury. So they're going to be relying on him on the run. But man, Christian Kirk, man, I know it's your guy, Sean, man, 1,100 yards, man, for a guy who got paid big money, and pretty much he showed
like a number
based
one.
Based on production, pretty accurate. 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, man. That's like a top 15, top 20 receiver in NFL based on production wise. He got pretty much paid that same amount of money. So shout out to Christian Kirk, man. But man, going with that Chargers team because I just think that team's just a little more talented on the offensive end, a little more polished, and a little more ready for the playoffs. Because man, oh man, I bet it's been years waiting for this team to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and Eckler too, man. He deserves it to be in there as well.
Yeah, that dude, man. That dude won someone $2 million, man. It's a fantasy, man. That's what Austin Eckler does.
Definitely
for people,
did.
Man. That dude just wins people money.
Legit.
Hey, he talks his shit. Lost fantasy, gets people paid in fantasy football. So shout out to Austin Eckler, man.
Yeah, Austin Eckler, man, he's definitely risen up the list of guys that you should be taking very early in the drafts, fantasy drafts. I'm with you guys. Like I say, the Chargers to me, they've always been that team that just can never put it together because of injuries. And now that they've gotten somewhat healthy, I do like their chances in Jacksonville. Now I will say Jacksonville, looking at some of their games, like I didn't watch a lot of their games, but looking at just how they had their run when they went against, I think, Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game and almost got to the Super Bowl. How they were doing that run and like just their fandom. I do think it might be kind of a nice little home field advantage they'll have, but it's going to be up to the Chargers to come in and really quiet the crowd and play to their potential. Because if they do that, then I think it could be an early night for the Jaguars. So I think we're all in agreement here with the Chargers. Another game that I'm really focused on, and it's because of health, is the Bengals Ravens game. I'm
Lamar.
very
Absolutely.
interested to see if Lamar actually plays. I'm interested to see because nobody has really came out and definitively, like 100%, been like he is playing this weekend, including his coach.
Mm-hmm.
Has
They're
not
playing
come out and
mind
said
games,
that.
man. They're playing mind games with the Bengals.
I better hope they are. I better
Yeah.
hope so because if I see Huntley come jogging out there or whoever their third string quarterback is come jogging out there, that's going to be so disappointing for Ravens fans because then it's just going to fuel the speculation going into the offseason with obviously the reason why he did, because I don't know the man's injury. I know he had I think it was a PCL. So they say that injury could be tricky because he is a
1
running
to 3
quarterback.
weeks.
Yeah. And they always put these weird timelines on injuries and everybody's body is different.
Yeah.
But it's just going to fuel the rumors if he doesn't play that him sitting has to do with his contract. So I wonder how that's going to play. And knowing Lamar, considering how he's always tried to be on the field to play, now bear in mind it wasn't with a contract on the line, but I'm just interested to see how that plays out because I actually like Baltimore a lot. I like Lamar a lot. I think his weapons are not as good as someone like Joe Burrow and the Bengals, but I do
Not even
think
close.
that I do think that Baltimore has like this just weird thing in the playoffs that I know Lamar has kind of, I wouldn't say he struggled, but it's just he's going through the I guess the growing pains of being a young quarterback in the playoffs. Like everybody can't be Joe Burrow and just going there and like that type of run is just unprecedented. So I don't think every young quarterback's going to be like that, but I do think Lamar and them have a really solid chance if Lamar does play. Now he hasn't played in I think 5 or 6 weeks, so it is a long
And
layoff.
he hasn't practiced.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not one
he
practice.
hasn't practiced at all. So that's why it kind of makes me feel like, is he actually going to play? It wouldn't shock me if he didn't play. But if he does play, I like their chances to at least make it a really competitive game. But as
Since
a
he's
betting man,
hot.
I definitely would probably just go with the Bengals because this man, all their weapons that they have on the offensive side of the ball and their defense, I think, is a little underrated. It's not great, but I think it's good enough to get you to a championship game or even a Super Bowl. And I think sometimes we always think of these explosive offenses, but like what are like, it's like I call it the Kansas City syndrome. It's like their defense is just usually there and they just make one or two plays to like get the team to the next round. But it's more so the offense is like the focal point of the team. So, that being the Bengals, I think their defense is a little bit better than that. So that's one game I'm looking at. It's super interesting.
Bengals. Yeah. I think, I don't know. I mean, I know that in their initial matchup too, T. Higgins wasn't playing. I know he had a bit of a scary moment this past week, but if he's healthy, with him and Jamar Chase being healthy, who also missed time this year, about five weeks, if I remember correctly. I don't know, man. I mean, Mixon's kind of cooled down a little bit for the Bengals, but this team just in general has been hot. And I think that the fact that, since he's at home, right, they secured that up with the win last week. You want to talk about a home field advantage? The Bengals
That's
had a
another
home
one. Yeah,
field
they do.
advantage. That's
Who
a big
dat,
one.
whatever.
Yeah, Who Dey, yeah. Who Dat is New Orleans, right? I always mix up the two there. Yeah. But, I mean, I just think Burrow, and once again, you got to put in the experience factor. Like I know we talked about Lamar, having some of his issues in the playoffs in the past, and look, I just don't think their passing attack is at all the same without Hollywood Brown. Which, to be honest, I don't think I would have ever expected to say because Hollywood Brown really disappointed a lot of people in Baltimore. And Sean, I think you may have been a shareholder last year of him.
He dropped those 2 touchdowns against Detroit. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it.
I was gonna say that's ingrained in your mind there as a former fantasy owner. So I'm going with the Bengals in this one too. I just think I think we said this last week. They are one of the hottest teams in the league right now, especially in an AFC that you need to be hot right now. So yeah, I'm going with the Bengals as well.
Yeah, I think the Bengals is the best team in NFL right now.
Really?
Oh yeah. So
Bold
I believe
statement.
this is an ass whooping, man.
Whoa.
This is gonna be an ass whooping, man. Because what do the Baltimore Ravens struggle with? Scoring. They do not score the football at all.
True.
Especially the minute Lamar got injured, all the Ravens do is score between 10 to 18 points.
Justin
And
Tucker.
if you're scoring in the teens against the Cincinnati Bengals, which offense? Oh, that's a beautiful offense, man. Especially with Jamar Chase back, man, the deep threat, man. Oh, man, Joey B in the playoffs, man. Hey, I'm telling you, that dude's swag is out of this world, man. I'm telling you, when that dude wins, that leadership, that intangible quality, something about Joey B's leadership, man. He got ride or dies for him on offense, man. And you got this Ravens team injured. Lamar Jackson with this contract issue looming, man. Not good vibes over it. He wants to get that fully guaranteed money, man. Coming off injury right now. His first game, coming back injury, if he comes back. If he's out, okay, Tyler Huntley ain't going to be Joey B.
No.
That ain't happening.
No.
That ain't happening. So if Lamar Jackson comes back his first game, and he's going to beat the Cincinnati Bengals
On the road.
Come on, stop it, man. Like
That's
I remember in the beginning, the spread was 6.5. It's already at 7.5.
Wow.
So people are just hammering the Bengals right now. Hammering the Bengals because they're the better team and they got an injured quarterback. And even if they were healthy, I would still pick the Bengals because I think the more talented team, especially on offense. And they're a low-key good defensive team, too. They really shored that up after this offseason. So, Joe Burrows, man. We're watching a legend in the making, man. And what he say, man? Man, his time to win, man, is his entire career. That's the window for him, man. If I'm healthy, I'm balling, I could win a Super Bowl. And I truly believe that because this dude has really lived up to the hype of being the number one overall draft pick.
You want to talk about another team that struggled to score? The Dolphins, man.
Oh.
Last week, Dolphins-Bills, the last AFC matchup. I think there's two pretty obvious games in general. I mean, I think you could say the Bengals one is relatively obvious, but that's all based on if Lamar plays or not. But I think this Bills-Dolphins game, man, they got the whole storyline with Hamlin, man.
Yeah.
Team's fired up.
Yep.
We're not going to get into the NFL rigging aspect, but come on, guys. We got to be a little honest with ourselves here. There might be a little push along, but, they're not even saying similarly to the Lamar thing. I haven't really seen much about Tua playing. And, even though they do have two of the best, they probably have one of the best wideout duos in the league with, Hill and Waddle out there. I just don't think it's going to be enough. Even if Teddy Bridgewater's playing, who we've all seen can, manage a game pretty well, give you 200 and a touchdown, man. That just ain't going to be enough.
He's good for 269 and a touchdown.
Yeah, there you go. I like the 269 too. He's always under that 270 mark, which I would consider to be a good game is like 270. He's always like right under that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, I got to go with Josh Allen and the Bills here. I think it's a pretty obvious pick on that one at home.
Oh
too.
Especially watching that week game last week, man, with the third string. Brutal. Brutal, man. I just feel sorry, man. Like, Tua, man, this dude just can't catch a break with all the concussions, man. Obviously, I don't think he should come back this year. Like, all these concussions, it's definitely not good for his health. So I'm telling him to sit this out. Like, you've done enough this year. Teddy Bridgewater, even if he comes back from injury, Teddy B's a backup, and he's coming off injury. Come on. It's over, man. Buffalo Bills, man. This team was the prohibitive favorite before the season, man. And I feel like right now, this Miami Dolphins team, man, it's a beauty for them because it'd be a nice tune-up, man. When they play a real team next week. But this would be a nice little tune-up, man. Man, Buffalo Bills.
Do we feel the same way? Do we feel the same way about the Bills with, I guess, we know they're going to dominate Miami versus the Seahawks and the 49ers?
That's the other one I was going to say.
10-point spread, man.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting about that. Because they doing it, it's a 10 points, and I know San Francisco team is really, really deep. It's like, man, that's a lot of faith in a rookie quarterback. I'm not going to get off that point. That's insane.
I think the point
you know what they're saying, man? It don't matter who the quarterback is,
go.
man. That's what Vegas is saying. Like Jimmy G, Brock Purdy, whoever, like Trey Lance, whatever. This team, on paper, outside of the QB position, obviously, most talented team on paper right now.
With Debo healthy too.
Yeah, and like Seattle Seahawks, they squeaked in because the Packers wet the bed, man. But like, not gonna lie, if the Packers made the playoffs, I still think it would be like a 9-point spread.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like
On the road.
no
Yeah, I
shot,
believe
man.
that.
It
Against his
would have been
juggernaut.
a quick ass whooping that Aaron Rodgers is very, very used to. The annual tradition getting whooped by the 49ers, man. And it almost happened again this year. It almost happened, but man, Aaron Rodgers had to talk about retirement and all that afterwards. I'm like, get out of here with that BS. You're getting your 50 mil, man. You're taking that 50 mil. Get out of here with that retirement. Oh man, stop it, man. Where's Aaron Rodgers gonna play?
You know he's got to drum up the drama.
Who cares, man? Screw Aaron Rodgers, man. That dude sucks now. But let's talk about Brock Purdy, man. Brock Purdy, like, if this dude leads the 49ers to a Super Bowl, even making it just a Super Bowl as a third string quarterback,
Trade Trey Lance.
man, I'm telling you right now, man, Brock Purdy, man, make me some money, man. My 49ers pick is still alive, baby.
Yeah.
When I was down in Chicago, I made a bet on the 49ers are winning the Super Bowl championship, man, because I believed in the talent outside of the QB position, which is very anti-me because I love a good QB, man. But, man, Seattle Seahawks, beautiful tune-up game, too. Beautiful to Geno Smith, man. Beautiful season, man. Comeback player of the year. You can vote for him like that. Great story, man. Your boy Walker, man, rookie. Man, he might be the rookie of the year this year.
He might be.
Kenneth Walker. Like, he might be the rookie of the year after all the injuries. The dude had rushed for 1,000 yards, a lot of touchdowns. So, it's a cute story, man. But we're talking about some real. It's a cute story, but we're talking about real football. We're talking about real football teams, man. That front line and D line, man. You got Bosa, who probably is going to win Defensive Player of the Year, man. Oh, I'm ready for this ass. Debo Samuel's coming back from injury, so they got another talent they can utilize, man. George Kittle has been balling with Brock Purdy. Like, they got a nice little connection. Like, man, Ayuk, man, out on the wing over there. I'm like, man, this team is locked and loaded, man. This is a Super Bowl contender, man. And I'm ready for Seattle. Okay, bye-bye. You had your fun, man. Shouts to the Detroit Lions for getting you in because they got you in, man.
Yeah.
They got you in. You guys didn't earn that spot. The Detroit Lions fought for you guys, man.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have your nice little week, man. Nice little experience, but I'm ready for the 49ers to move on from this game, man. 10-point spread, man. It's about right.
I think they might even cover because, I mean, the big thing for me is in the two games that they played this year against Seattle had one offensive touchdown, man. In 2 games, one offensive touchdown. And we got to talk about that too. The 49ers, man, their defense is hella good as well.
Unreal.
I know you mentioned that too.
Really
you got Bosa there too. You got Fred Warner. I mean, looking forward, I think that's going to be the bigger question, right? When they'd have to maybe go up against an Eagles team in an NFC Championship type game. But yeah, man, I'm going 49ers, and I think they'll cover that spread. If you get it at maybe 10, if it keeps pushing up, man, I don't know, but I think it's still pretty
if it gets 2 touchdowns, then give me the Seahawks.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll get there. I don't think any game in the, like say, the one that has a chance to maybe go to a 2 touchdown spread is the Bills Dolphins, just because if the Dolphins truck out. I mean, well, no, it's the Bills Dolphins because I still, even with the Ravens, even if Lamar doesn't play, there's no way they get to 2 touchdowns because it's just like
Dobbins could have a good game, they're running game.
Yeah, they can
That's what you
control the
gotta keep
clock
in
too,
mind.
so I don't think they can go 2 touchdowns. But
yeah, Niners for sure.
Yeah, it's just, man, it's a rookie. It's just very, I get he's actually played not even just like well, he's played good. Like he's been a good quarterback. He doesn't turn the ball over. And maybe that's the magic of Shanahan. I think that speaks more to him than anything.
Genius.
Absolutely.
He's a kid genius with quarterbacks. He just knows how to maneuver and make their job less difficult. So that'll definitely be interesting. Switching to Vikings and Giants.
2 trap games.
Man.
I don't know because I don't like either quarterback. And then when you just start going talent for talent, I like Minnesota. But Minnesota, they say their point differential was weird. I know they won however many games, 11, 12 games, however many games they won. But I felt like every game was close. So it was like a coin flip type game. And anytime you're dealing with a team that's winning coin flip games, who was basically a facsimile, I don't know if I used that right, of that team was TCU. They won a bunch of coin flip, not coin flip games, but a couple of games were really close. Like if you go back and watch the TCU Baylor game, like they were franticing to line up and they kick a field goal at the end right when the clock expired. They won a lot of games like that. And then it showed when they got to the playoffs and played like a real, even in the Michigan game, they had 2 pick sixes. Like that doesn't ever really happen. So it's kind of like Minnesota, I wouldn't say they're that, similar to TCU, but it just feels like they're Justin Jefferson or bust. And if you get any type of corner, and I do like the Giants defense a little bit, if they got any type of corner who's just enough to slow Justin Jefferson down, then you could get a similar situation to what the Packers did to the Vikings a couple weeks ago, where it's like if you shut Justin Jefferson down, like you have no offense. And I love Dalvin Cook, but it's just like it feels like Justin Jefferson is the engine of that offense. If you get him going, that opens up everybody else on that team. So for me, I kind of want to go with the Giants because Daniel Jones has surprised me this year. I like him a lot. He's not great. He's not a guy I want to start my franchise with, but I think he's kind of got a little bit of that Jimmy G thing going on where it's like he could just manage to be all right. And I think the like run him with Saquon and get the defense going. Like he has a little of that in him. So I like him a little bit more than Kirk Cousins, even though Kirk Cousins could get streaky as hell. Like he can throw 5.
Oh, he can throw some darts down the field.
Yeah, he can get hot to where it's like, dang, it's like Kirk's got 350 yards and 3 touchdowns in the third quarter. Yeah, they're at home. Skull Vikings, I get it. But I don't know. I kind of I think the Giants, man, Dayball magic. I think I might rock with them.
Okay. I'm actually going to agree with you there. I think that it could come down to a kicking game at the end. And we know Greg Joseph can bang them.
He can. 60-yard game winner, man. 60-yard game winner.
He's also missed some field goals too lately, man. And, I know they're at home. They're in a dome, right? That's a big factor. But, man, I just think one of these 3-point games that they have not been losing all year, I think they're perfect on them the entire year. One of them is going to come back to bite them. I said this last week. The Giants are the one team that the Vikings probably did not want to face in the first round of those bottom 5 through 7. I don't know, man. I just think the Giants defense is really good. And you look at the Vikings defense, which is like 31st in pass defense and like bottom 12 in rush defense. Saquon could absolutely eat. I think Danny Dimes, he's going to get into that rushing attack mode that ends up usually winning them a lot of games is when he can actually break out and be a threat, which obviously takes away from the linebacking core. Not saying Kenny Galladay is going to have the game of his career, man, but I think Slayton's going to actually.
He scored a touchdown last week. I think
he did, yeah. Finally, maybe he got a little bit of an incentive, even though he's
fantasy
like
sleeper
catches. Yeah, next year, first round, I'm using him. Man.
Hell yeah! In 14 team, 13th pick for me.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I do think Saquon, and we all know this too, very similar to Justin Jeff, man. He's their entire offense. Everything runs through him. But Daniel Jones has proved to be kind of that second guy on the offensive side that if they can also get him going, they're not a juggernaut of an offense. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But their defense they're one of those teams where their defense can hold them in pretty much any game. And they could be giving up 24 points, but the Giants have the ability to put up 27 if they can get those two guys going. So I got a 27-24 3-point type game coming for the Giants, man, taking this one on the road.
Interesting, man. Riding with Danny Dimes, man. That is something that I cannot do, man. I've watched a lot of Giants games this season because of my boy Saquon. And watching Danny Dimes play football is a tragedy, man. Like, the dude's a really good runner. That's one thing about him. Danny Dimes this year, like Dayball used his ability, which is not to throw a football, it's to run with the football, man. And Danny Dimes is a really good athlete. And I feel like they have to rely on that as a rushing attack because all they're going to do ground and pound, man. Classic ground and pound. Play defense and run the football. Because that aerial attack, man, like, I'm sorry, Slayton ain't no number one option. Richie James, cute player, man, stop it. The aerial attack is pretty awful. Like, Danny Dimes cannot throw the ball down the field. He just can't do it. And it's okay, man. It's a limitation, man. His arm's not that great, man. He's not that accurate. Some of the interceptions you throw a little trouble thinking, man. But I'm going with Captain Kirk, man. It's his time to shine, baby. It's his time to shine. You got to win a playoff game after this season.
Yeah.
You're winning 13 games. Obviously, point differential minus 3, man. It's negative, man. So pretty much they got lucky in a couple of games. But they're playing against a team that's pretty much exactly like them. They got lucky in a bunch of games too. So they're playing against like themselves, but it's like a different style. One team is more of an aerial attack, obviously with Justin Jeff, and others is a ground and pound with Saquon Barkley as their rushing attack. So their styles are very different. But both these teams level, man, they just kept getting lucky in regular season games. So this game is going to be close. It's going to be a field goal game. But I'm going with the team at home, man, because Captain Kirk, man. Captain Kirk, you're going to win one playoff game this year, man. And this Giants defense, it's a nice little defense too, man. I give it to you. It's a nice little defense.
It's not cute. It's a nice defense.
Yeah, it's like a nice little defense. It's a nice little defense. Like, I'm just praying Captain Kirk doesn't get in those stages, man. He just starts throwing picks for days, man. He gets those stages, man. He can throw back-to-back picks. Need none of that, man. Captain Kirk, man, get your 250, 300 yards, man. Get your 2 touchdowns, man, and you'll get it done against this Giants team. Because that offense, like the Vikings defense is atrocious. The good thing is they can't take advantage of that terrible secondary. Like Danny Dimes, that size skill set, man. So if they go rushing attack against their skill set, they can't take advantage of the Vikings' terrible pass defense.
He did outthrow him in the regular season game, man. He threw for 335. Kirk threw for 299. I know the Vikings won by 3.
That's the thing about the Vikings. The Vikings defense, and not just from a fantasy perspective. Anytime there was a player going against his defense, their receivers always went off. They always went off.
Yep.
Like I think Isaiah Hodgins, I had him because I'd lost a couple of guys, and I started him in my flex, and he had like I think 15 or 16 points against the Vikings. Like he.
Yep.
Yeah, 89 and a tutty, man. 89 yards and a tutty.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's like that. The defense part, I think, I feel like they're very similar on offense. I think the Vikings have a more explosive weapon versus the Giants, but the defense, I feel like, is with the Giants. I think, and that's just all part of Daboll and just not even. I think Daboll's offensive coach, but just his mentality. I think he's kind of instilled a little bit of toughness on that defense. So that's why I go with them. But I do agree it's going to be, I think, like a 3-point game. Hell, it might even go into overtime. It might even go to overtime because
it could be an OT.
It feels like those are the two type of teams that are very evenly matched. And last but not least, I'm gonna make this quick. I haven't been a believer in the Bucks. Listen, the Cowboys will always make any playoff game, any big primetime regular season game, they will always make it interesting. I really, really doubt that the Cowboys could come in and just blow the Bucks out. That's not what they do. The Cowboys may even get to a big lead and let Tampa Bay come back and it be a close game. Because that's just the Cowboys are for theater. That's what they do. But I'm picking the Cowboys to win the game. They have the better team. They've showed a lot of highs and lows. The one thing that's concerning
that last week was as low
Dak.
as it could get, man. That last
But
week.
I think they because they knew they weren't going to win the division. I think that's why they tapped out. I think that was.
I don't know. Dak Prescott throwing those picks, man. He ain't trying to throw picks.
That is the concerning part. Like Dak has turned the ball over at an alarming rate, and I don't understand his fascination with. And I know there's everybody, they got T.Y., they got a couple guys, but Noah Brown is like his guy now. He throws to him a lot. And I don't watch a lot of Cowboy games, but he throws to Noah Brown like he's 1A to CD. So I don't know if that's just he's reading the coverage different or he's just keying in on him because he's got better matchups. But I think the key for Dallas and what I'm going to be looking for is how they run the ball. Zeke and Pollard need to eat. Both of them need to eat. And you can't have one or two. Both of them need to eat. I think if they can control the clock, which is, we've been saying this from the jump, if the Cowboys run the ball, control the clock, play action, dink and dunk, they can win a lot of football games. They kind of get away with that when they're making Dak throw 40, 45 times. I feel like that's just not successful for that particular team. But I do think the Cowboys can win because I have no faith in the Bucks. Because if you look at a lot of their wins, a lot of people are going off of was Tom Brady. Well, we get it. Yeah, he comes back all the time. I get it.
Home game.
Like you say, it's a home game. But to me, if the score gets to like 30, the Bucks are done. Like, it has to be a slugfest where they're in the 20. It's like got to be a 20-19 or 19-14 type game. Then the Bucks could probably win it. But if they got to score with Dallas, which I think Dallas has the ability to score points if Dak's not throwing picks, I don't see the Bucks having a chance. But this is probably gonna be the most interesting game because any Dallas game is interesting, bro. It's just how it always goes with the Cowboys. They're the box office boys. They always do something to make. I mean, they're America's team for a reason. They just do interesting stuff in the playoffs. So that's what I'm running with.
Yeah, I remember last year was legendary. Hopefully, we get another legendary moment like that again. But man, I'm looking at this, man. 2.5 point spread in favor of the Cowboys, man. So they're road favorites. So Vegas pretty much telling this. Cowboys are a better team. They're by far the better team, even after last week. So that's building in last week's drop off too. So 2.5. So I feel like if last week didn't happen, or if it was just like a normal game, or they just benched their entire roster, I think the spread would be bigger right now. Because I think 2.5, that's pretty nice. A field goal.
Yeah.
So if you're picking the Cowboys to win by a field goal, man, that's what I'm going with this week, man. Because I think they're a more talented team, man. Because like Tom Brady, he's going to have to be chucking the football a lot this year or this game. Because that offense, that running attack, there's just nothing on rushing right now. They're pass first, pass second offense right now. You got to hope Mike Evans breaks out again, man. Have some big bombs downfield, and that's pretty much what they're going to rely on because they're struggling to get the football up the field. And Tom Brady, the GOAT, good for you, man. You should have retired this year, man, because you're going to be going home soon. You're going to be going home soon after this week, man. Dallas Cowboys, little ass whooping, man. I'm telling you, man.
He's going to the Raiders, man. I don't know if you saw that.
TB12 taking a lot of L's, man. Lost like $100 million in the FTX, man. Lost his wife, man. And now he's going to lose a playoff game, man. That's what's going to happen. 3 L's for Tom Brady, man. You lived a life of W's for your entire life, man. Regression to the mean, Tom. You're going to feel like the rest of us. You're going to take another L, man. You're going to take another L, and it's all good, Tom. It's all good. Your career is great, man. But you can't be winning all the time. And this Dallas Cowboys team, hopefully they listen to Sean, man. We're running the football. Just run the football, man. Zeke and Pollard, man. Thunder and lightning, man. Let's go. Dak Prescott, stop throwing the football in the red zone. Stop throwing footballs in the red zone, man. I don't want you throwing to Dalton Schultz, man. Dalton Schultz.
Offensive coordinator, what's his name?
I forget.
Kendall something, whatever. Whoever the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, relax with all the throws.
Isn't Dan Quinn on the
defense?
Cowboys staff though?
Yeah. He's on defense.
You remember what Tom Brady? Remember what Tom Brady did? This is gonna be personal, man. I'm going with the Bucks here, and I got a couple reasons. One, running against the Bucks is not easy. We've seen that from pretty much every team, and if you're saying that they got to rely on that, and if Zeke has not been, I know he scored in like 12
tutties, baby. 12 tutties, still alive, man.
He had a cute season. All right,
he did. Only 800 yards.
Fisher Price, cute.
Exactly. Fisher Price, cute. Yeah, get him a little set of Fisher Price, man. He can go play house with Tom Brady. All right. But look, I think the difference here is I know Zoo. We watched this game, man. They finally got that Brady Evans connection going, and if you want to pick on a cornerback that is going to give up big plays, it's Trayvon Diggs, because he's going to bite. And they're going to get some big plays out of Mike Evans, and then they're going to get, with Micah Parsons rushing, I'd understand, Brady's going to have to get the ball out quick in a lot of certain situations. You want to talk about two guys that are great to get the ball out quick to? It's Leonard Fournette in the playoffs, playoff Lenny, and Chris Godwin, man. Those are two of the best quick throw playmakers in the NFL. And I'm looking at that defense on the other side. If you're stopping that run, and you're forcing Dak to throw the ball to Noah Brown, to CeeDee, whoever, Dalton Schultz, I don't know if I trust Dak, man. I keep bringing it up, man, but I think it's another Adam Sandler type story. I'm going to quote Colin Cowherd again, man. I think, and it's unfortunate because, look, the Bucs were not a good team this year. I think they finally started to click a little bit there towards the end, at least getting on their offensive, scheme going. So I'm going to go with the Bucs here, man. I think that home field advantage. I know that it has nothing to do with the weather, right? Cowboys playing the Dome, going out to Tampa Bay.
Should be fine.
But I just still can't bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs until I see it.
It is true, man. And it's cost you a lot of money in the history of football.
Exactly. So I'm gonna go against you guys on this one. I'm gonna go with the Bucs in this. I think that, like I said, I think this game and the game we just talked about are two huge trap games, and I think the Giants and the Bucs are gonna both pull them out, man.
Interesting.
Cowboys, man.
If they lose, though,
for
McCarthy
real,
getting fired, man. McCarthy getting fired.
He's got to go. He's got to
losing
go.
to a team that's
And
below 500. Yeah, below 500. You can't do anything about that. You gave him the money, man. You gave him the money. Yeah, stop. You can't do that, man. Cooper Rush, man. That's the definition of a cute quarterback and a cute story of winning. Because he ain't good at all, man. He ain't good at all.
I'm giving Dak to a little bit of a pass because he did come from. He may have rushed a little bit too fast from the injury. So I don't think this is because he's not. I don't think he's been ever a high turnover guy.
Yeah, he's usually in that game manager role.
He's not throwing a bunch of picks. So I'll give him a pass, even though I feel like they should win this game. But I'll give him a pass this year. But next year is going to be that's really I think going to be the big season for Dallas or for Dak, not Dallas, because I do want to see if they do lose this game. How they, because it's Dallas, so they always are talking about the Cowboys 24/7, and that's going to be a center point. And look, bro, like you got paid your money, you're doing whatever. Like, do we need to maybe draft your replacement? Let's see if we can find a 4th round guy that we can groom. That's got a little bit more talent than Cooper Rush. Like that's just kind of how it goes for the Cowboys. Because I do think they probably would fire. It's Jerry, so who knows with the Cowboys, but That is
Very
a
decisive.
storyline that's going to be and it's hard to be the Cowboys coach. I mean, you don't have any power. They're not listening. Like,
Yep.
who was the last? Look, Jimmy Johnson was probably the last guy they listened to with the Cowboys. They don't
Not
listen to
Jason
Cowboy
Garrett.
coaches. Yeah, they So is Jason
Man.
Garrett still the coordinator for the Giants?
Nah,
or no?
man, he's on TV,
It's
man.
a broadcast, man.
Oh,
He's on
okay.
television, man.
Picking fly Eagles fly over the Cowboys, man.
Man, analyzing
That's personal.
Cowboys football right now.
Yeah,
man.
that was personal.
That's
But, man,
definitely
but
personal.
yeah, I got to bring this stat about Dak Prescott, man. The pick, 15 interceptions, man. That's most
That's
in
a
the
lot.
NFL, and that's in 12 games. He is tied with Davis Mills, who
Mm.
played 3 more football games, and they have the same number of interceptions.
Davis Mills, bro.
So based on interceptions per game, Dak Prescott leads the NFL this year.
Just solidifies my
That's
pick, man.
Yeah, not gonna lie, that makes me a little nervous, man. I don't like
It
that.
don't
man.
make me nervous if they
That
run
makes
the
me a little
freaking ball.
nervous, man. That
They
makes
can't
just
run
run the
against
ball.
the
the
Bucs.
Buccaneers are a good defense. Like their offense
are
may not
good.
be
Vita
all
Vea.
bad, but they're a good defense. They're still good defense.
Yeah.
And that makes me a little nervous out there, man.
But still, the spread is enticing. I will say the 2.5
Yeah, 2.5
winning
field
by
goal
a field.
game.
This could be an easy field goal game either
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
So I think that's still a
Dallas does though. When I said earlier, when I was making my point about like Dallas could get to a big lead and Tampa Bay could come back, Dallas, if they get to a big lead, they better make that run during like the third going into the fourth, because you don't want to get a big lead when it's like the first half and Brady just chips away, gets a field goal or a touchdown. Because if it's the fourth quarter and it's within 10.
Yeah,
Dallas
if
is
it's
done.
Tom Brady,
They're
no
done.
huddle, man, I get a little nervous, man.
Yeah,
Get
they're
a little
done.
nervous.
They're done. They got it. Dallas, I feel like comfortably they need to be up 2 scores to where
Yeah.
Brady has to score. Like any scenario whether Brady's down 3, 7, or 10, he's gonna win that game. If it's 2 touchdowns, I can feel comfortable because then he's got to make 2 touchdowns, got to drive the field twice, and he can do it once, but doing it twice in a row, and then maybe Dallas can do some ball control. But yeah, comfortably Dallas needs to be up 2 scores going into the fourth if I feel like they have a chance. Because if it's anything below that, it's probably curtains. It's curtains. But like I say, that's our NFL picks for this week. Like I say, it's going to get more interesting next week with they getting into more of the division round and the number one
real
seeds we'll be
teams,
playing.
man.
Yeah,
the real
teams we'll be
contenders,
playing.
man. We'll see all the
Real
real
teams
and the
we'll be playing.
fakes.
Yeah. And shout out, like I say, to the Eagles and Kansas City for getting your bye. So you guys get to watch all the fun this weekend. But now it's the Bears segment, including yours truly, P. Bush. I'm going to give him an ISO here. I don't know if you guys, I would say most of you guys were watching the game last weekend. Even if you wasn't really keen on the Houston Texans, Lovie Smith gave, I guess, that organization, maybe the Bears organization, a parting gift with going for that 2-point conversion, which effectively gave the Chicago Bears the number 1 pick. So
About damn time.
we're going to have a lot of time to talk about this because the draft is not till April. But as Peebush being a resident Bears fan, I want to get his thoughts on receiving the number 1 pick and what is his preliminary thoughts. And like you say, his subject to change because there's going to be a lot of draft talk.
Absolutely.
Stuff's going to happen and combines and all that stuff. But I'm just going to give his preliminary thoughts on what he thought when the Bears got the number 1 pick.
I could thank Lovie Smith all I want, but I sincerely want to thank the Colts secondary guy that easily had a pick on that bomb towards the end. I don't know his name. He just kind of flailed his arms up. I was like, oh, that's an easy pick. And then Jordan Akins was just like right there, and he caught it. And I was like, how did you let that happen? Oh, well, either way, I think they threw it on purpose. I honestly don't know why. But yeah, man, I mean, it feels like we won the Super Bowl. It's about time the Bears got a top pick and did not actually have to trade the house
to get it,
to move up for a Trubisky. Obviously the Justin Fields pick kind of fell back to him 2 years ago. But yeah, man, this is tough. I do think they have the Texans needed a quarterback, right? And it's really going to be, are you going to trade up 1 spot to lock in Bryce Young? Like, do you care about him that much? Because Ryan Poles, the GM for the Bears, came out today and said, I'd have to be absolutely blown away to take a quarterback. And for
early negotiations, baby.
And for him to even say that, I think it's more of a, okay, let's test the waters and see, are the Colts at 4, Texans at 2 willing to trade up to get, the number 1 overall pick. I mentioned this before the Final Four of the CFP. Is Stroud potentially going to be moving up to one of those top spots, after his performance in the college football playoff? I don't know. But I do think there's a couple opportunities that I'm looking for. And I think that a lot of Bears fans would agree that we don't just want more draft capital. I think we want some sort of positional player traded within this number. If we were to trade the number 1 overall pick, which 99% of the time I think they should. I don't think the Bears need the number 1 overall pick. They could get a guy at 2, 4, how they could get it at 7 with the I believe that's the Raiders pick, 9 with the Panthers. I think those are probably the 4 teams that are in need of a star quarterback that have an immediate need to make a trade. And the one that I'm looking at, man, unless Mr. Aaron Rodgers goes to Vegas, I want the Raiders and Bears to make a move, and I want Devontae Adams included in that trade.
Wow.
I think that could be considered.
You think the Raiders will be willing to trade
I don't think he's
Devontae
that
Adams?
happy. I don't think he's that happy. Josh Jacobs is not. No one's happy with that locker room. No one's happy with that organization. You know, the change from Derek Carr, that's 9-year veteran, man, that they're moving on from, and they did it before the season end. That clearly gave an indication that they were looking elsewhere. Now, if Aaron Rodgers goes there, I think we got a different story. He's obviously going to want to team up with Devontae out there. But I think if you do that pick swap and you include Devontae, maybe the Bears throw in like a 3rd rounder as well, I'm doing that trade by far, absolutely. Because then not only can you take a stud offensive lineman at 7, you might get another decent pick in your 3rd round pick to solidify that line. Or you take a defensive lineman and solidify. They need to solidify their trenches, and they need a stud wide receiver. And this year is not the year to draft a wide receiver. That's more so next year. You know, Quentin Johnson, I think he's coming out of TCU. He had that nice, couple games there in the CFP. Had a more than a cute season at TCU. He had a very good year this year. But I just think that you either are going to have to trade for a wide receiver. I think the Panthers with DJ Moore is also another potential spot.
Moore.
Or are they too naive in believing in Sam Darnold in the future? I don't know. But at 9, either way, if the Bears do a pick swap to like 7th, 9th, I don't think the Colts will trade Pittman. I think that's one guy. He's young. If they do get a stud quarterback in a trade with the Bears and take Bryce Young at first, they don't want to be relying on Alec Pierce to be their number 1 wide receiver there. I'm sorry, but Michael Pittman with a legit quarterback could be a massive weapon for them. So I just think there's a lot of opportunities that the Bears can take. If they do trade with the Colts, I think maybe asking for like Quentin Nelson, one of their stud guards, one of the best offensive linemen in the league. He's not old, but he's aging. But I think that the Bears could use some sort of veteran presence there. But I just think they got to move this pick. They need a serious positional player in the trade, or they're going to ask for the house in draft capital. They're going to get the pick swap this year. They're going to get the 1st rounder next year, and they're going to get some 2nd and 3rd rounders in this year's draft as well. It's just that, do you want another year of continuing to develop young players, or do you want to bring in a stud wide receiver like a DJ Moore, or obviously take Devontae Adams in a heartbeat? But trading him back to the NFC North would be pretty cool to watch too, having him go up to Green Bay if he was in a Bears uniform. So it's a tough one. You're on mute.
Well, my bad. What are that? Benedict Arnold? What do they call that?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not like it's not like either. I guess I don't know the tier system of like the hatred of rivals, but it's not like Devontae going to Detroit. Like I feel like Packers fans would rather him go to Detroit than the Bears.
Yeah.
It's gonna burn. You see it.
Has to do.
Bears. Oh Lord.
That's what I think. They're not going to trade for a defensive player. I think
my question is, what if a team calls up the Chicago Bears, be like, "Oh, you guys got the number 1 pick, man. You keep that. We're on Justin Fields, man. We're on Justin Fields. We're going to give you a 1st round pick. Next year, give you a 2nd round pick. Maybe throw in a 3rd round pick in there. Are you listening to that offer?"
I think you got to listen to it. You got to see what they're willing to offer. I mean, if you're saying you get that, so they'd have the first, they'd be getting the 1st pick.
They're going to obviously pick a QB because if they believe Bryce Young is a better young quarterback than Justin Fields. If obviously management has to believe that.
Let's say it's the Colts. Okay,
to
pair up Fields with Jonathan Taylor. I think that's a hell of you want to talk about a 1-2 punch in your rushing attack? Jesus Christ! If Jonathan Taylor's back to the level in which we were expecting to see him this year, I think I would entice that because you're getting the 1st pick and the 4th pick. You're getting a future 1st round pick and potentially maybe a 2nd, 3rd rounder in this.
Yeah, you're throwing a later pick in there.
I mean, Chase Claypool's not a number 1. And I think that if they did take one, they'd go Bryce Young. They draft the offensive tackle out of Northwestern. I think his name's Skoronski. He's the best offensive lineman in this draft. You're putting a stud left tackle with a stud quarterback, but you're going back 2 years and developing him again.
You're resetting the clock pretty much.
Correct.
Because obviously Justin Fields, obviously the salary as a QB, you have more money in the salary cap to have better players around him. Well,
Right.
Justin Fields, you're going to have to pay him sooner than Mr. Young. So
Correct.
that might be some thinking that the GM has to consider when you're making moves like this.
And I think that is the big one. But I think, once again, it goes back to his comment that he made today that he would have to be absolutely blown away by Bryce Young's combine. But then again, we've seen guys like Zach Wilson have an unbelievable combine. Unbelievable combine.
Yeah.
And then we see how he plays in the NFL.
Zach Wilson, I think
what
that was
Justin
during
Fields can do.
Was that during the COVID year?
I think
Yeah,
so.
all I
Or
saw
the
is he
year
throwing to
after.
nobody, man. That's all I saw. He was
Out.
throwing. Oh, he's like, what a pass!
Okay.
There's no one there, man. It's just him
Because he
throwing
had
to the
those
gym
weird-
by
He
himself.
threw across
He had
the
those
body 70
Arm
yards
slots.
dying.
Yeah, he had those arm slots that were kind of just
Yeah.
crazy.
So that's
You-
a point too. But
Yeah.
I think they're looking to move the pick
the
initially. But I do think if they make, if
What about
if those
thinking
are
about using the pick? Because this is recent news. DeAndre Hopkins he's on the market. You might
That's
be
what I
able to
want.
flip a first rounder that you get to get
For
a
D-Hop.
DeAndre Hopkins, and
Now
he wants
we
a
have-
contract, and he wants a contract extension too. So
and
you
they
sign
have the
him,
money.
and you have the money, the cap space, contract extend him, get the stud receiver with Justin Fields, and build around him and see what happens there.
But you would flip. But you would have
Yeah.
to be. I guess you would trade whoever you trade that first overall pick with is who you would flip that first round pick for DeAndre. That's what
Mhm.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Wait, do you think DeAndre's worth even a first round pick?
Well, you get the pick swap and D-Hop. So you'd be that's
Okay,
that's
yeah,
what I'd be
yeah, I see
considering.
what you're saying.
So the
Yeah,
Cardinals
So
don't
you
have-
swap with Arizona, I guess,
Yeah, exactly.
for
But
the
that's
first
if they're
overall. Yeah, and then I
moving
guess
on from
Arizona
Kyler.
could maybe deal because they still got Kyler. They just gave a lot of money to, so it's not like they'd be trying to get a quarterback. I don't think.
There's
do
a lot
think,
of
though, if you-
teams.
There's a lot of flexibility with the pick, which is great to have when you're in the position of the person or the team that has a number one overall pick. But I do think if you do go the route of trading Justin Fields and say you go for a guy Bryce, you better get that offensive line right because Bryce won't
Exactly.
last. You have
that's
to.
why-
Like Justin, you can maybe draft one guy on the offensive line because he's so mobile right now, so that he can probably avoid hits. But Bryce, how slight, like you guys, I'm telling you, when those combine measurements come out, you're gonna be like, holy cow. He is
Right.
not the 6 foot 195, 200. He's
No.
more to the 5'10, 5'11, 190.
He's undersized.
And he's a hell of a thrower, but you gotta protect him because, like, just looking at it on the surface, people love to say the NFL is trending towards smaller. No, the smaller quarterbacks that are smaller are big dudes. They're
Mhm.
like Kyler to be 5'10, he's 5'10, 210. He's like a
Mhm.
little running back. And Kyler is not small. And plus, two, he's super, super athletic, gifted. Like he's
Oh yeah.
4'4",
Scrambling?
4'5" guy. Yeah. Bryce is not that running. You're not gonna get. He's probably not even 1/4 of what Justin is athletically. Now he's more of a pure thrower, but like I say, he's got the capability to play the position. It's just like you have to protect him though because he gets hit a couple of times. I don't think there's been a quarterback his size like that's been that successful. Because even Drew Brees was over 200. Bryce Young is really light. He's really light.
Mhm.
Like most quarterbacks are not like even Lamar. Like him coming in, he was probably in that on a
But
good
he
day.
looks skinny strong.
205.
Man. He looks skinny, but he
Yeah.
looks physical.
And he's
like,
tall.
built.
He's taller
Yeah.
too. So that kind of helps. And he, like I say, he's another athletic genius. That's like the profile now. Like a lot of these guys who are coming in, if they have any deficiencies in like weight or height, they're usually athletic freaks. There's not a guy who's short, lightweight, and like not athletic in the league. That's just not the profile. It's just we don't see any. All the guys are over 200. All the guys, even Joe Burrow, he's sneaky. And he had his leg torn off a couple years ago. He can still run around.
He can run it. He can run it. Joey B's a
he's
sneaky
athletic.
runner.
So it's going to be interesting. Like I say, if you do go Bryce, which I think he's probably still going to be the number one quarterback because he can throw the hell out of the ball and he can place the ball. He just got to have protection. So like for me, if I was doing the whole, say I gave up Justin Fields and then had to get picks, I would probably do the first couple picks on linemen. If unless you can maybe get a trade where you can get, like you said, get a Quentin Nelson, then like maybe get one more linemen and then get some playmakers. But yeah, you got to protect Bryce. But it's gonna be interesting, man. It's the amount of scenarios, bro.
Oh,
it's
it's
a
so
lot
many
of
options.
scenarios you
Man.
got. Like, whew.
And
I'm so happy.
you better not mess this up.
Exactly.
Because you
It's
were
gonna be
given
hard to
you
mess
were
it up,
given
bro.
a
It's gonna be hard.
gift. You were given a gift as the first overall.
Mhm.
Like you might have gotten the gift, man, but with that, man, you go a lot of ways, man. and there's gonna be a wrong thing. Because if you mess this up, man,
I don't think
you're getting fired, man. You're getting fired if you mess this up.
Dude, it's gonna be hard to mess this up, though. I really do believe, because to me, and the only reason why I believe that is because I believe in Justin Fields if he has the weapons around him. So I feel like if you stay with Justin, you're gonna get weapons around him because they're probably gonna trade out of the pick. So that means you're gonna get a lot of capital to get weapons. But even if you don't, I believe Bryce and probably Stroud, they're gonna be a franchise guy. So if you like, I think all those guys are gonna hit. The only way, like you say, it messes up is if somehow Bryce, if they traded, it just be as like an all-time or Stroud, if they're just an all-time failure. And then at that point, it's like, well, everybody else would have took Bryce or CJ. So I mean, now if they trade it and they go for like, and this is one of my personal favorites, and we're going to talk about this way down the line in the draft. I love Anthony Richardson. Profile. He's got a lot of he's not Josh Allen, but his profile traits, just his, he's got a lot of his arm strength is there. He's super athletic. He's raw. He's only played a year, but it's he's just got a lot of traits that you see in today's game with the quarterbacks. But if you take a guy like that and he busts, then it's okay, that was a stupid mistake, because you don't take a guy that's only started. Yeah, it's a Trubisky one, because remember Trubisky was super athletic too and could do all that. Hey. But he's still in the league though. So
no. When Trubisky runs, man, it's not graceful like Justin. Man.
No,
there's levels to
it's
this,
like
man.
Daniel Jones tripping, man.
Exactly. It looks like clumsy athleticism, man.
He's not
clumsy athleticism.
He's not graceful. Mm-hmm. I will agree with that.
Not graceful at all.
He's not graceful at all. So we're gonna see. Like I said, the draft is all the way down in April. So right now we're going to be talking a lot of playoffs.
GM's on the clock though, man. He's already on the clock right now, man.
I love the early negotiation. I love the posturing that you always get when you have the position of being in the number one.
You got all the power.
Yeah, man. It's a lot of posturing. Right
a lot of responsibility here.
We're gonna what's the GM's name?
Ryan Poles.
Poles, you're on the clock, buddy.
Yep.
You got to make sure you make the most of that number one pick. So we're gonna be talking NFL playoffs for the next couple of weeks. Same old with the NBA. It's a log jam in both conferences. We'll get into a little bit of that more, because with the playoffs, as the rounds advance, there's not going to be a bunch of games to cover. So we'll be talking more NBA. Same old bullheaded_pod, Instagram, doing videos on there for the most part daily. TikTok, bullheaded864, YouTube Shorts, Quantro Knows, putting all kind of content up on there. Make sure you follow us on the DSPs, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. And for me, Zoo, and P-Bush, we are out. If I can get to it. There we go.